Episode 8, are you ready? We're going to be talking about popping pills, microdosing, the spiritual elements of it. And if you wait till the end, you'll never guess what we're going to be showing you.
Yeah, so we're delving into the world of hallucinogens and psychedelics and how it can be used for therapeutic benefit as well. So I've been diving a little bit into the science, finding out what it is, how it works, and does it actually work? Is there evidence? And we'll see how we go along the way. Often we go into little tangents, don't we? And find...
Whereas I brought some mushrooms that me and Sophie are going to be doing later. I'm totally joking. Although they have been calling me.
So, the mushrooms have been calling you?
Yeah, so from a spiritual aspect, sometimes when, and I think a few of our listeners will resonate with this, so sometimes you'll hear something and then it will sort of trigger a little bit of interest within you, then you'll hear it again and then you'll have a little bit more interest, and then you'll kind of have this feeling as if it's almost a knowing that it's something that is calling you to try. I've never done mushrooms. The thought of being on a 12-hour trip absolutely... terrifies me, to be frank. However, I also know when things scare me, it's my indication, my personal indication of when things scare me, that's when I know I need to, that is my next level of growth, and that's always rang true over everything. But the thought of doing it, I feel like when I try them, I need to do it in a place that feels quite sacred, a place that feels quite safe, that feels very ceremonial. Whereas I think... when I grew up, a lot of people were taking mushrooms recreationally, for fun. So it took out the medicine element of it. And when I say medicine, it's kind of, the inner healing, healing your, psychological wounds and stuff like that.
I think you're absolutely right. I think a kind of recreational way of people taking it is completely different. Yeah. Because actually what people know is it's they call it the set and setting is really important. So it's about your mindset and being in the kind of the right setting. So maybe you're going to be with a shaman in a kind of controlled environment. Yeah. So it's probably therefore safer as well. You're not just like in a field I think somewhere after a rave.
Yeah, I mean that would terrify me.
Yeah, well I always think, because I've not gone too much into LSD, but it's quite similar, but I always still panic about, I remember hearing stories about like people going to a rave or whatever, taking LSD and then they're wanting to like peel their own skin off their face because they thought they were an orange or something. There's like those little like urban myths that you don't know if they're true or not, but that always kind of put me off.
Oh, well, when I used to work in Ibiza, I was only 19. This was just spoiler alert. This is when I had a lot of unhealed trauma. And I used to drink a lot. When I went to Ibiza, I did a lot of drugs. But looking back, like I had some crazy, trippy experiences where literally we'd take pills that would have LSD in, and I'd literally see, I remember going to my friend's house, getting into bed, and I could see this huge man in her wardrobe with an afro dressed in 60s gear. And I was like, there's someone in your wardrobe. He's looking at me. He's looking at me. She's like, there's nobody in my wardrobe. I was like, he's there. He's watching me. So that kind of scared me a little bit. So I'd be interested to know kind of the psychedelic aspect of that. However, when I've done deeply spiritual practices with let's be fair, that they were literally hardcore drugs. I mean, I don't even know if that's legal to say, I'll be honest, but I definitely don't take them now.
Here they are. Come take you away.
I don't do that now. This is very much early 20s. When you're in that party stage and literally you're just trying to forget and suppress like emotions that you feel, that was very much that stage. Whereas now when I've done sort of, and again, when I say plant medicine, I've only done, cannabis in a space cake, which I told you about during one of our earlier episodes when I went into a sound bath. And that's pretty much all I've done. But I do feel like it's calling me in a sense of, I've gone off on a tangent. Basically, what I was saying is when I've done other sessions, such as breathwork, belief coding, I'm going to tell you about my bloody finger shortly. I've had a similar experiences where I've had really strong visions and it's activated like a different sense or a different sort of world or realm, if you will. So I'd be interested to know what you think about that.
All right. Well, yeah, let's get into that. So yeah, I didn't know much. I've heard a lot about mushrooms. I've heard a lot about microdosing. That seems to be kind of a big thing at the moment. So I didn't really know much about that. And I thought before I need to know about microdosing, I need to know a little bit about what it is about mushrooms that is supposed to be good. So it's the psilocybin, which is the chemical within this mushroom, which is similar to the DMT, which you get in the ayahuasca, which we'll talk about as well.
And apparently your body can create its own DMT. So when you do things like breathwork and when you do, that's right?
Probably.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
Yeah, because I know, I think it is, but again, shit with facts, great with stories.
Well, yeah, I'm sure that is right. And so it's essentially, it binds to serotonin receptors. And people think that it can be useful for depression and anxiety. And it's really interesting, actually, how we think this works. So we've talked about the default mode network before, which I'd never heard of. We talked about it with meditation. And that's your kind of your brain being really like structured and what it gives you your self of perception and your sense of self and time. And when you have psilocybin, it kind of breaks down the boundaries in your brain that can create this altered sense of consciousness and actually leads to something which they call kind of therapeutic disorganization. So that sounds a bit like a nightmare, but what you,
I think that sounds amazing because it's disorganized it to reorganize
exactly that kind of resets. Because when people are depressed, often they have kind of fears, ruminations, negative
neural
thoughts.
pathways, isn't it? Like literally going and connecting to things and beliefs that aren't necessarily true about themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then continuous triggers.
So it kind of breaks all that down so that they're able to have new connections. So it makes the critical thoughts easier to control and increases the kind of neuroplasticity, which again we have talked about with belief coding and meditation. And so there has been some studies done that shown that it's better than SSRIs and longer lasting effects with less side effects. So that sounds.
So do you know what I think then? So I'm going to tell you a little bit about, I've just had a download, so I'm just going to go with it. So we've just done our EEG trials for belief coding. We can officially say the sun's back now. Boom, chicka, wow, wow. Yeah. But essentially what happens when we do belief coding sessions, we are able to use a trauma circuit to reframe a past negative experience to a positive one, which basically means it instantly stores in long-term memory. So I think with this, I think it's using the same cycles where literally it's allowing the person to release those past negative experiences using the same sort of circuits to store in the long-term memory. So they give meaning to something that happened to them in the past, which is different to the meaning that they've held on to for so long.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense because what I was reading about ayahuasca, and as I was saying, so I'll just start. So ayahuasca. Do you know about that?
Yeah, so
you
again,
ever had any?
No, but she's been calling me. So apparently with ayahuasca, so ayahuasca is the great grandmother. It's from like the I don't know what tree it's from actually, but it's the medicine from a tree. Is it from the ayahuasca?
It's an Amazon plant.
Oh, plants. Oh, sorry. So they make it into a tea and then you drink it. But from a spiritual perspective, what ayahuasca does, and they call her the great mother, and it's a feminine energy that you're working with. And then you've got, there's a male, I'll think what the grandfather energy is. But when you drink ayahuasca, literally she brings up, or what you call purging, you bring up everything that has, we'll put it this way, actually, my friend, when she did it, she told me that she birthed the devil. She said, Jess, she said, I was shit everywhere, puking, and it was as if the devil came out of me. But it's all of that, all of your past experiences that you've held on to that felt scary, the parts of you that you weren't willing to accept, it comes up and then you have a life-changing moment in the sense of, it's like the death of ego and the rebirth of new self.
That's exactly it. Yes, they call it ego dissolution.
Oh, go into that.
Yeah. So exactly that. It breaks down the sense of the ego, and therefore in replace of that you get this sense of interconnectedness with other people and with nature. Which sounds absolutely amazing.
Do you know
actually.
What you've just done there? I felt totally terrified to take ayahuasca, but the way you've just explained it, I'm like, I'm going to go to the Amazon.
Well, hang on, I will get to the fact that there are some.
Okay, I'm going to close my ears now because the subconscious hears everything.
The thing is, I think for some people it's very overwhelming, very frightening, and if you've got any kind of, you might not even know it, but if you've got any psychotic disorders, psychotic tendencies, bipolar, stay away because this could be quite damaging,
or it could be quite life-changing.
Well, as a doctor, I would say don't do it.
Spiritualist, I can say that, so if you can't.
And apparently, if you're on antidepressants, like you're from prescribed, then
do you think it could be? I think it's because when you're on antidepressants or when you have psychotic tendencies, not tendencies. What's the word I'm looking for?
Conditions.
Yes, psychotic conditions, not tendencies. It's probably because there's deep-rooted traumatic experiences there. So with something like ayahuasca, it brings it all up, so it has to come up. Hence, and it conceptualizes it, so you can see things in kind of a metaphorical way. You can see things from your past that felt painful that you've had to own.
But I think it could trigger a psychotic episode, which could be kind of a long-term. It may not just settle, because these things do have longer-lasting effects. As well, but because of that kind of ego dissolution, it often helps people reevaluate almost their life choices, which is why it apparently helps a lot with addiction as well. And because of the emotional breakthroughs, because it kind of, you have really heightened emotional and sensations for people with PTSD, it's thought to be very helpful. Which, yeah, so that kind of correlates a lot with psilocybin. So it's depression, it's anxiety. A really interesting study they did, because it's still illegal, still called a class 1 illegal drug, which means it's not even used for medical therapy. Because things like ketamine, we do use
for medical,
not often, but they have got uses. I think that's changing. I think this is all because in like the 1960s, there's some sort of interesting things that went down with LSD, and they kind of stopped all research into hallucinogens.
Well, this is the thing. So when I've looked back into it, and I love a conspiracy, but I don't think it's conspiracy. I think it's factual. But when I've looked back at it, so because they are mind-freeing drugs in the sense of you just don't have so a lot of people that I know that have done ayahuasca or have done plant medicine or psychedelics which free their mind, they no longer fear things such as just certain elements of control, and for me, I truly believe that we're in, a society and a culture which has a massive suppression, which induces states of fear. Like if you look at the things, on, the television programs, the news, Netflix, everything is perpetrating fear into the society. So a lot of people live in fear, which triggers those internal senses. And then it's reconfirmed every time you go on social media, you see things. Anyway, long story short, I forgot where I'm going with this. What did you just say?
Come on, girl, you got this. Yeah. Talking about the conspiracies it shut down.
The suppression, So I believe, and again, this is only my belief, but I definitely think it's true, that they were all shut down because it's a lot harder to sort of make people conform to systems that we live in if we're more free thinkers or free minded. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure about if that's true, but what I was hearing about how the American government during like the Cold War.
Are you going to talk about remote viewing where they had psychic mediums?
No.
Oh my god. So what is the I'm doing you read Project Looking Glass. So during the Cold War, they realized that we had humans had telepathic communication skills, and we could tap into. Honestly, there was a huge. This is. Oh my god! I can't believe I've not told you this. So this funding only stopped 20 years ago, but it ran from the 50s. So my ethos is, if something has run for 50 years, what does that tell you? If it's had funding for 50 years, to me, that tells me there has to be something in this, because if this didn't work, it wouldn't run for 50 years, right?
Okay, well, maybe I need to go away and
have a look at it.
Into that.
So it's Project Looking Glass, remote viewing, 1950s. So essentially what they would do is, and there's a film out there and it kind of gives the basis of the story. What's it called? The eyes that stare, the goats that staring at goats that kill guys. What's it called? Oh my God, it's about, fucking hell, what's the film called? It's got George Clooney in it. The Men That Stare at Ghosts, right? Yeah. The Men That Stare at Ghosts, that's the ethos of where this came from. But this ran for like 50 years. And essentially they would hire psychic mediums. And I've actually done remote viewing training. So, oh my God, we could do it for the listeners. If you want to know, just put remote viewing below and we'll set up a masterclass and you can do remote viewing. But essentially what you do, you set an intention. When you set this intention, so it could, for the Cold War, is right, we want to see what our opposition are doing, where they're based. So they set this intention, they write a code, and then they tune into the code. They do something called an enneagram, which is this squiggle that connects to the conscious collective mind. And these psychic mediums, they were able to see where their opposition was, their bases, they described them perfectly. And this has ran for 50 years. So it was only officially closed down, I think, in like the late 1990s. So my ethos is, I genuinely still believe it's still running, but more as an undercover operation because it ran for 50 years. So if you look at it that way, like how can something run for so long, still be funded if it has no legs?
Well, I don't know anything about that. I can't think how it could possibly work.
See, but I have mediumship. So from things that, have I told you about my friend Charlotte? Have I told you this?
No.
Do you want me to go into it?
Okay. Well, I mean, we're veering off. What do you reckon? If it's a good story, let's hear it.
So, right, one of my best friends, Charlotte, she's amazing. She lost her mum. And this is the same time where I started to, what I believe, like channel spirit and kind of just feel and sense that spirit was there. And I always used to do this thing called Psychic Sundays where people would come to my social media and then I'd pick up things and I'd just channel information that came through. And it was always right. So my friend Charlotte asked if I could channel into her mum to see if any messages came through. So I had the most, and this was the most, well, I say one of the most, it was one of the most sort of, yeah, it was amazing. It was an amazing experience because I thought, wow, you know, all of this information that came through, there is no way that I could know this because she didn't tell me. after the information came through, I looked on social media. There was nothing there from the information that came through. But essentially, when I connected to her mum, I just got this overwhelming feeling, senses. She showed me vision. She told me to get a pen and paper. When I got the pen and paper, I just started writing down. Everything I passed on to Charlotte was true. But like, I'll share one thing because obviously it's her reading. But do you know the film Maleficent? Mm-hmm. So the night I was doing the reading, Charlotte and her husband, well, her boyfriend, were watching the making of Maleficent, and her mum came through and she showed me Maleficent coming through. Now, when you start to channel, you feel like you're making the information up. So I was like, this is so weird. I was like, Maleficent, what's that got to do with anything? So I wrote it down. And when spirit comes, they will show you signs and symbols to confirm to the other person that this is real, this connection. Her husband and Charlotte were watching the making of Maleficent the exact same time that I was doing the reading for her mum. But that's just one thing. There's about 7 or 8 different things that came through that nobody would have known. It's crazy.
So you are a psychic?
Well, so there's psychic, there's mediumship. So mediumship's where you channel spirit, or spirit will allow you to come through. But I truly believe everyone has this ability. Whereas a lot of psychic mediums think only certain people have it. Whereas I've got the other belief. I think if I can do it and other people can do it, everyone can do it. But it's our internal fears and our past experiences that block us from being the channel to be able to channel the information. Does that make sense?
Well, no, it doesn't make any sense from a kind of rational, logical point of view. But it certainly makes sense that people think that only they can do it because they want to make money out of it. No.
By the way, don't charge. That was a free reading.
I mean, some things you just can't explain, can you? So,
no.
But that's really interesting. I mean, maybe we need to touch on it a bit more on another
I think
episode.
we should, yeah.
Because
this is it. So when we did our EEG trials last week with Abhijit, the neuroscientist, I said, so how do you explain this? And he was like, well, that's because somewhere you will have seen the information and it's gone in. So then that's just what's coming to the forefront of your mind, which I kind of get and understand. I know that to be real. However, this experience, there's no way, because I was like, I must have seen this on social media.
Such a random thing.
Yeah, and the time, and I didn't even know that they were making a documentary called The Making of Maleficent. So for me, I totally believe that everything we see, we record, because that's what the subconscious does. But I also truly believe that, we are guided by something higher, something we can't really explain, but there's that internal knowing. It's like birds, they have that internal GPS, they have that internal sat nav, and they just trust to follow, to know, they listen to the guidance that they're having internally. And I believe that we have that because essentially, we are mammals, we are, mammals.
Yeah, well, the whale, some of the whales have got that kind of sonar.
Yeah.
Crazy thing.
And that's like when you look at the world, like it's just so intelligent. And even like when we're looking at psychedelics, the world, Gaia, she has supplied us with things to allow us to heal mind, body and soul. Like I just think what we live in is just so incredibly magical and clever and intelligent. Like there has to be, it definitely 100 million% to me cannot be random. It can't be because it's so intelligent. Like even like, do you know what sacred geometry?
Well, that kind of, again, crosses with my dad's stuff, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I love your dad. But can I get a signed copy of his book?
Yeah. Well, no, I don't really. I mean, I know that I know a little bit.
Yeah. But even then, like everything follows those patterns, like everything. And it's crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, but
how does that link back to?
I don't know.
Psychedelics and hallucinogens.
I think if anything, so it's just for me, hallucinogens or like I call it plant medicine. The reason why it appeals to me is because it allows you to access those different states of consciousness, which give you, the findings of your internal wisdom. Because essentially, that's what it is. It's connecting you to. In quantum physics, like the planes of energy, where you're able to see things, feel things, and just kind of going off on a different pathway now. If we look back to like paintings of like the Renaissance, when they used to be able to see halos around people's heads. So I remember being in Manchester when I was doing lots of energy healing, and I could see like energy around people's heads. It was bizarre. But back then, I also believe that toxins, our environment and things like that, they suppress our natural ability to be able to tap into that energetic field and space.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my take on it.
Well, I'm the one who's done all the work and you're the one who's got all the amazing stories. I'll just go back to my right. But what I have found...
No, but I think it's
why we're a dream team.
Yeah. But again, like I do think that there's always I think there always is an answer to something, but it's whether we believe it or not, you know? So for me, I believe we're all connected on a conscious, collective way. So, and I believe that plants are. And I believe that plants are a high frequency, high vibration, which allow us to reach those states of consciousness. And when we've done belief coding, we've had facilitators that have gone literally back to being in a past life as a tree. And they've just been wanted to experience the world go by. But, you know, whether that's real, I don't know. I mean, I'd like to think it is because I believe we're all, and we talked about last time.
We did talk about it, but energy never is only ever transferred, doesn't die.
Yeah.
Actually, what I was also, because I went deep into like mushrooms and when I was looking into psilocybin, but mushrooms are absolutely amazing anyway. You know, like, so the kind of, fungus is its own kingdom. So like when we think about kind of plants, animal species, it's neither a plant nor an animal. And they're like
mushrooms.
Yeah, it's mental.
What do you mean they're not like a plant or an animal?
Yeah, because they have their own like connected networks. And like if we didn't have mushrooms, there would be no world.
Okay,
you know, like they're like so amazing. But that's like a whole nother thing. I think there's a Netflix documentary that I intend to watch actually. But yeah, I was listening to this kind of mushroom expert, and it, you think this is going to be like, I don't want to hear about mushrooms for, but it's amazing how. And all the different types of mushrooms and what they all do. Like they break down all kind of rotten wood. So if the forest and things wouldn't manage without any mushrooms and things like that. But when we chop down all the forest, we kind of kill off a lot of the mushrooms. And
do you know what, right? So following on from that, so plants also have, so the guy I've been working with, Abhijit, who's the neuroscientist, he's been doing experiments with plants where literally for the first time they've been able to see that plants warn other plants of danger. So if a slug is coming and eating them, the plant wires up and it sends messages to the other plants.
What?
Have a look at it. I'll show you his socials. Like he's done the experiment there.
I can't believe it though.
And what else has he done? He's done an experiment where literally if you break off a plant that you can feel the pain. So what he's done, he's connected.
But then,
he's connected the...
I don't want to start feeling sorry for plants.
No, I know.
I already don't eat meat.
I already feel sorry for carrots. Somebody told me, well, a carrot is consciousness. And then all I'm thinking is, when I shred those carrots, that's my hair.
Or like there are some people who only eat food that's like already fallen from the tree or something, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that.
That's got no nutrients in it.
I don't think Aldi sell that. No, I can't do it.
Also, part of me also believes that we also choose our path when we come here. So I believe the carrot already knew it was going to get picked. Yes. And I do believe that. So that makes me feel better. And also, if you look at it, when we die, essentially we go back into the earth, whether we are cremated or buried. Yeah. So actually we are doing our part in the ecosystem.
Yeah. Yeah, I like
makes
that.
Makes me feel better. Justification at its finest.
Yeah, I like that. So mushrooms in general. And actually, when we think about our gut bacteria, which we've talked a lot before, actually your microbiome is also made up of lots of fungi as well. Okay. So which is important. And when a lot of people worry, it's kind of like sometimes it's trendy for people to think that they've got like whole body candida and they need to get rid of it and things like that. And actually, don't be doing that because you need, in the same way you need a lot of the good bacteria, you need a lot of the good fungi.
As well. Yeah.
But so going back to microdosing, this kind of appealed to me actually, a bit like you're saying it's called to you, because I'm like a mega scaredy cat. I am not someone who's dabbled in drugs. Honest, mum, honest.
I can confirm that her and Paul have never touched a drug. I was like, during my Ibiza days, I was popping those like crazy. But I just want to confirm, I definitely 1,000,000% do not do drugs now, just to clarify that. Yeah, I feel like people, I bet she's still on them now. She's nice again.
But so microdosing, because it's actually such a tiny dose, like a 10th or a 20th of what you might take of psilocybin normally, like mushrooms. And so people believe it helps them with their stress, their mood, helps them have better clarity and cognition. People describe it as like somebody was saying that they've had like years of depression, and then when they're microdosing, then they sometimes only do it like a couple of times a week, that it just helps them see the beauty in the world and helps them again get out of that kind of negative ruminating. However, as much as I wanted this to be great, the evidence is rubbish because there's no standardized dose or like procedure how you do it, how often you're meant to do it. So the evidence is really thin.
I get you.
And then there was one really good study I found, which is a randomized controlled trial. But they found that the only difference was subjectively people felt better, but there was no other change. In fact, their cognition went down.
So do you think that's more the placebo effect?
Yes. Yeah. Hope is a big drug.
Thing. And faith. Yeah.
Yeah.
Faith and do you know what, actually? So it's funny, actually, because actually going to do a ceremony with mushrooms, like I do feel that will happen. I do feel that's going to happen for me quite soon. Whereas microdosing, it's never... I think it is. I think I have friends who have done microdosing, but then it felt like it's more recreational and more of a dependent rather than something which it should be. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
But again, they say that it helps them. But then I think when it becomes, you know, are you controlling it or is it controlling you? I think that's when it takes away what the purpose was in the first place.
Yeah, and what I would worry about is we have no knowledge of what the long-term use is going to be, because you're kind of crowding these receptors all the time. There could be really negative consequences to that. So I would worry about that.
I love you. This is like the total GP coming out now, isn't it? Like, yeah.
Sorry, guys. I'm just going to kind of ruin everything we've said. This is wonderful. In theory, it's great. Oh, it doesn't actually work. Sorry, guys.
Who thinks me and Sophie should do a mushroom ceremony together? Put it in the comments.
So I guess what my reading has shown is that I think we need to, and I think there are more long-term studies going into psilocybin, because I think it could have huge therapeutic effects. And because we know that SSRIs, which I do prescribe, but they have got horrible side effects.
So what were SSRIs?
So that's it's what we commonly prescribe for antidepressants. So people might have heard of things like fluoxetine, sertraline. In the States, they call them by their brand names, which I've forgotten. But so they're selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors.
With stuff like that, what is the long-term effects of taking SSRs?
Well, so I've got a video all about antidepressants on my Dr. Sophie GP YouTube, so check that out. Because I think a lot of people aren't really aware of the risks, actually. And that the evidence shows that SSRIs are not very good for mild depression. There's only evidence for moderate or severe depression.
Wow.
So if you've just got a mild depression, which then you're better trying other things, because there can be. People often find that they are no longer hitting the lows, but they're no longer hitting the highs either. There's a lot of like emotional numbing. People get quite a lot of sexual side effects, which often they're embarrassed to talk about. So
what would you mean sexual side effects?
So
they lose the libido,
erectile dysfunction, lose the libido, fail to orgasm. Wow. Sometimes that can be permanent.
I suppose because it's numbing, isn't it?
Even when you come off the SSRI, for some people. So if you kind of knew all that and you only had mild depression, would you still take the antidepressants? So maybe not. They are life-saving for some people. So I wouldn't want to kind of put people off completely if you need them. But I just think people should be informed to make the right decision. So hence why things like psilocybin, although there may be side effects we don't know yet, I'm excited because I think, there's some people who
possibilities, isn't there?
Could do with more help. And if it's actually potentially safer with longer lasting effects and maybe less side effects, then that's a win. So I think there is obviously something going on why at the moment it's still kind of not allowed.
I think it's going back to that conspiracy of mine.
Hey, well, I did. Also, I wasn't telling, because I didn't finish telling my story. So back in the Cold War, not mediumship, but they were using it because they thought it might help with interrogation. So they were trialing it. They had this one house address in like Washington or something, but they got kind of like prostitutes in
I think
to drug people.
I feel like I've heard this story.
Yeah, have you?
But carry on.
And they unwittingly did it to lots of people, and apparently it was super dodgy, kind of ethically. The black people they gave higher doses to for longer, and essentially it got shut down when some people found out that they were doing kind of really dodgy things. I think after that I think because they were just giving massive doses and
kind of so they weren't consciously aware of what they were saying.
Well,
they'd be tripping, wouldn't they?
Yeah. But so I think, and after that, that's when things kind of were put to a stop.
Wow.
But I think there's an interesting story behind what went on and who went down, and I bet I was hearing about it and I thought there should be a movie. I can't quite remember the details now.
I love that. I do feel like or maybe I'm actually thinking of a movie where they give someone a drug. Maybe I'm thinking of, what's it called? The film where Meet the Fockers. I think that's the story I'm thinking of. I don't think I've actually heard the story. I think I'm thinking of Meet the Fockers where he drugs
documentary, Cool. Okay. So overall, ayahuasca, be a bit cautious. Setting are very important. Microdosing, try it if you want. It's illegal. There's no good evidence for it.
Is it illegal to take mushrooms? Yes.
Well, no, you can forage your own mushrooms, obviously. But be careful. I wouldn't forage your own mushrooms.
There's loads around us apparently as well.
Unless you are 100% sure you know exactly what that mushroom is, because they can be very dangerous.
Yeah, I definitely don't know what any of those mushrooms are. And we have like a big cluster of mushrooms at the moment growing outside our house. And part of me is thinking, I wonder if they're the ones.
You could try and find out. But trying to eat mushrooms is amazing for various reasons. And trying to eat a different variety of mushrooms. And dried ones are just as good. So every time I read about this and think about it, I'm like, oh yeah, we need to make a nice kind of
I think it's calling
wild mushroom risotto.
Yeah.
I'm such like, you're like, I'm going to have like a ceremony and
I'm having risotto.
And I'm like, I'm going to have a risotto.
I'll forage you some of those mushrooms, put them in there.
I'm honestly really fun, guys.
She is, I can confirm that.
So I reckon that's everything I found out. I think that was quite interesting.
I'll tell you what, you might know a little bit more about this. So there's a mushroom powder that I have, but it has like 8 different types of mushrooms. So lionsgate mushrooms, I don't know what it does. Do you know? I feel like you might. But apparently lionsgate is the one that's got the biggest health benefits.
That is an adaptogen.
Oh, going
lion's mane. Is it lion's mane?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that in different episodes.
Yeah.
Stay tuned, people.
What products have you used this week, by the way?
Oh, yes. So some things to share. Oh, yeah. I wanted to share, because I talked about my snail slime one week, and I wanted to share my other kind of secret, amazing skincare thing, which is no longer going to be secret. Let me grab it.
Hasn't she got gorgeous skin?
Oh, so this is Japanese hyaluronic acid. It is called, the brand is Hedolebo Premium, because, you know, I'm worth it. But it's cheap. It's not very expensive. On Amazon again. Why are we not sponsored by Amazon? So hyaluronic acid should be part of everyone's skincare regime. So it holds 1,000 times more water than its own weight. So it's super moisturizing.
So does that mean literally as soon as you put it on, it's locking in your moisture?
Absolutely.
This is why you look so glowy.
It's this on the snail slime.
Put it on my face.
Slather yourself in it. But it plumps the skin, so it helps with kind of not looking like wrinkly old bag, which I'm really keen not to do. And the key actually is, so because it holds onto that water moisture, do you want some hyaluronic acid? Sorry, my dog is pestering me. Is to put it on damp skin. So kind of I wash my face in the morning, and then just with my skin slightly damp, then I pop it on.
So is that because your face is damp, which is the water, so as soon as you put it on, it kind of absorbs the water and the hydrochloric acid into your skin?
Hyaluronic acid, hydrochloric acid, that would be bad. What's your problem with the microphone, Pip?
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I feel like I want to put it on.
But so it should be the first thing. So I use it morning and night, and it's the first thing I use in my skincare regime. And then I slap on my snail slime. Yeah. And then I still moisturize. Because I use retinol at night, I'll tell you about that another day. I do have dry skin, so my body's like, thank you so much. I love it. And you know, South Korean and Japanese skincare is usually the best.
Yeah, isn't it? Mm-hmm. When I don't know what Medicate is, but I'd heard Medicate everywhere. I was like, I'm going to order Medicate. Oh my God. Jeez Louise, my face burnt off. I went to a wedding and literally my face was so dry. It was just, I feel like I've mentally scarred myself because even talking about it now it's making me feel sick. But my face was so painful. They were brilliant though. The company itself, like they apologised to give me a full refund because I spent a fortune. But yeah, I would not. Yeah. So, but I think I was using the retinol too much.
Yeah, you've got to be careful. Yeah, we could talk about that. I could give you my recommendations for retinol another day.
Yeah, another day. Another podcast.
Keep watching, people. Keep watching. So yeah, Hedolebo Premium. Get it on Amazon. Absolutely mega.
Amazing.
How about you?
Oh, so do you know what, right? Do you know what they called the brows where people have them stuck up? What are they called?
Laminated.
Yes. Yeah. So part of me wants to get my eyebrows laminated.
Yeah, I'm always wondering.
Yeah. And I'm like, I think they look really cool in other people, whereas I fear that I would look like an owl, you know. Anyway, so the product that I've got, it's called Elf, and it's this eyebrow gel. It is amazing. It's in a little tub, and literally you just scoop it on. Do you know, like a mascara brush, but one that's not got mascara on? Yeah. Come with the code there. You put it in the gel, and literally it just laminates your eyebrows. So I quite like it because when I laminate them, I've not done it today. I did my makeup as I pulled up in the car outside. I was like, fuck. And I forgot to put it in my makeup bag. But when I put it on, literally, they make my eyebrows just stick up. Although Alex did say to me, he's like, what have you done to your eyebrows? She's like, you look really weird. I was like, just trying this new thing. He was like, you look crazy. I was like, yeah, maybe I'm going to be OTT. Maybe I need to trim these buggers.
I know. I always worry that I'm going to look like that man from The Sky at Night or like Ming the Merciless.
Yeah. Yeah, Kenzie, but part of me, like, I love it. Do you when you see these like really glamorous like 20-year-old models, and in my head I'm like, oh, I would look like one of those people, whereas I do it myself, and my partner's like, Jess, you look crazy.
Okay, so that's a good one. Try and look crazy, but yeah, no, I need to, yeah. Okay, that's a good one.
Okay, right.
So we'll add the links. We'll add the links below.
Okay. Anything else you want to go over?
No, I reckon we're done. So if you haven't watched our other episodes, then do, because we are full of interesting facts and chit chat. And we always leave our recommendations at the end of every episode.
We do. See you in episode 9. Bye. Bye.